In solo leveling and race we have quite a few mechanics, combinations of weapons, hunters, whatsoever, which can be considered broken. And in this video I want to provide you an overview about the broken mechanics in solo leveling and race, which I found during playing this game. And this is Rudy Collects Video Games channel, so don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and let's begin. And for you to understand, it's not going to be a top list of broken combinations, mechanics, whatsoever, because they're not really comparable to each other. Each of them, they're good in a certain type of content, so yeah, I will go just one by one by my personal preferences. That's how it's going to be. And first of all, we're going to start with weapon combinations and skill combinations from the last update, let's say, when we got ourselves the Stormbringer. Some weapons and skills started to work pretty much decent and broken. The whole thing about this weapon is that at A5 we're going to receive an effect which is going to deal damage equal to 3200% of user's attack. It's going to work not for a long time, so yeah, during this period you should land as many hits from skills, weapons as possible. And probably the best one skill which is going to work just great with the Stormbringer is going to be high speed rotation, and we actually have a showcase from a player who showed how it's working on Deimos Pro Strong level 20 with a huge difference in terms of total power. Moreover, I'm going to tell that Deimos is actually resistant to wind element, and look at these numbers and this damage despite the fact that boss has break bar. It's pretty much situational, and you should understand it that for enemies who have probably a high defense, it's not going to work the same way, because Deimos, he hasn't a lot of defense, but overall it's working fairly decent. The next one thing is going to be exactly about skills, and here of course I should mention electric shock. Yep, it also doesn't feel any defense, any break bars from opponents, and deals a decent damage. And again, the whole thing that is going to actually deal damage based on attack of our main character. So for example, on my free-to-play account I completed all the content thanks to this skill, and not only that one, but also here I should mention the magnifying slashes. This is another broken skill which is going to provide an obscene amount of damage when you're going to use it properly with good support weapons which are going to buff dark element damage. So probably the most broken I can consider here the light one, because it's going to work pretty much everywhere. It has a low cooldown in compared to magnifying slashes. The second skill, I mean magnifying slashes, still you're going to use it mostly for the dark content, but this one you can take it pretty much everywhere. And when we're talking about some instance dungeon bosses, for example, pretty strong level 20, the difference in terms of levels, I don't know, total power, it's fairly huge. Besides the fact that some bosses, they might have resistance to light element, electric shock just doesn't care about it. It's still gonna work pretty much well. And now we're going to talk a little bit about hunters. I believe it's an important one. So here, yes, I should mention Yusuyun. I consider her as a broken character, but when you're using her properly with certain numbers in defense penetration, with certain hunters that are going to provide buffs for defense penetration, and she's going to shred almost everything what she's going to see. The whole thing about her and how it actually works, she's probably one first, let's say, character who is able to reach 100% defense penetration. What does it mean? She, from her passives, is able to get certain amount of defense penetration. She is able to get some amount from Asil's passive as well, some defense penetration, from Gina as a support unit for the fire element, and of course we should mention here Besta, the new shadow, the last one, let's say, not already the new, the last one, She is also providing some numbers for defense penetration, and they're going to be kinda additive numbers, so it's going to be not reduced by any debuffs from opponents. These numbers are remain consistent, and from her skills, I mean from her stats, we're able to get enough amount to reach 100%. And of course, not to mention about gears, the lion set might help with this, because as we remember, at 4 pieces she's going to ignore another 18% of target's defense, which is pretty much huge. The other thing to mention about her is actually her second basic skill. The whole beauty about it, that is going to deal fire element damage. It doesn't really matter if opponent is resistant to fire, if it's not a weak one element, is there no weak elements at all, she's going to deal fire damage. That's why support units like Asil and Gina, they're going to provide a lot of benefit to her specifically. And we actually have examples, for example Serbia, even at level 20 proven strong. She's able to defeat him just because she doesn't feel any resistance. It's all about defense. If opponents have huge defense, she's going just to shred them. And of course here not to mention Kanaya. Without her, there is no way to speak actually about broken characters in this game, and yes, I consider her totally broken. The thing is that she's just destroying pretty much everything, especially opponents who don't have a lot of defense. Here she might struggle actually, but she is the only character right now who is able to provide just an obscene numbers for different activities, which you're not going to see anywhere else. And that's why on Guild Boss or for example Power of Destruction, we can see from her numbers like over 10, 20 and I believe even 30 billion damage. These are crazy numbers, and she is able to provide them. Of course it comes from her passives and the way she works. She has a little bit of disadvantages in terms of her MP consumption and overall management, but still also her second skill is going to work as an ultimate. That's why some builds are going just wild for her. Next one is going to be Goto. Believe it or not, yes, in my opinion a little bit underrated character, because actually with the proper support he is able to provide some decent damage, besides the fact that he is a breaker. And yes, on my free-to-play account I actually completed almost the whole game, at least till the moment of Hard Baran and Workshop of Brilliant Light, with Goto as a main DPS. And he has such combination of skills which are pretty much unstoppable. He is able to cast them almost non-stop without any pauses. He's using his second basic skill, then first basic skill, then again second basic skill, and after that he is most likely able to repeat it. With this fact, of course, he is going to drain some mana, but with proper support like Hansemi, no big deal, just at all. And also, as a breaker, he is a good one character, not gonna lie. And also not to mention his support skill for SJW, which is going to increase damage dealt to targets by 100% when the enemy is going to be in a break state. And it's a huge one result for a support unit. It's just crazy. And in most of the cases, even with resistant element, I'm still using him as a support for SJW. Yes, in these situations he is not able to break, but still the effect, especially if enemies have several break states, is going to be just crazy. Also, he is a 4, basically going to make him like a universal support unit in any team, because whenever you're going to possess a hunter in the 3rd spot, Goto is going to actually increase the damage of this hunter in the 3rd position by 24%, which might be actually a good one addition, and it might help to complete certain types of content as well. Another one broken, let's say, mechanic is going to be about silver main. Maybe a little bit also underrated, but I consider it really a huge one, especially for bosses who have a lot of HP, because specifically in this case, from bleeding effects which he is able to provide consistently, he is able to bring them bosses to 50% of HP and even below, like in several moments after several rotations. And the primary example is going to be, of course, about Battlefield of Trials floor 70 with the boss, where you need to finish him within 125 seconds. And he has just huge amount of HP. And Silvermane, believe it or not, is the only one character who is able to complete this task, at least for now. Unfortunately, I don't have height advancements, and he requires some good stats for sure, but he is able to do it. Another one moment which I'm going to mention is actually about simulation gates. Yeah, in this mode we found a really broken code which calls multi-thread. As you can see here, the spinning blades around characters. So basically I was able to complete tier 30 in simulation gates with SR hunters. Thanks to this one code. It's absolutely broken, and whenever you see any of them, you just should take them. They're going to carry you through the whole stage like a joke. And again, in simulation we can actually find an interesting one mechanic. Everyone knows Choi, of course, the guy who can't crit, but here is the mode where he actually can crit, especially from his ultimate, thanks to one code which is going to ensure that all ultimates, they're going to land critical hits. And the last one, but not the least, is going to be about immortal build for SGW. Yes, due to certain mechanics, and I believe the fact that we are able in a certain moment to reach 100% damage reduction for SGW, all bosses, almost all of them, they're going to deal, after reaching certain conditions, only 1 damage per hit. Doesn't really matter what kind of damage is going to be, little or just whatever, is going to be just 1. The only one exception that is not going to work for bleeding mechanics. Yeah, here we might have actually some struggles, but all the rest, it might help, especially when you're doing not that great in terms of dodging. Sometimes it might help. In my case, I was doing a challenge, soloed them all before actually Prove Strong 20 was upgraded. Yet that time I was able to finish almost all bosses, or I believe all bosses in instance dungeons, with only SGW, without anyone else, and I didn't pay attention to their damage just at all, so they were hitting me and I was staying alive without any support, only thanks to this one build. And of course, for majority moments which I've mentioned in the video, you can find some videos on my channel, so feel free to check them out. And of course, the most important, which I almost forgot to mention, is going to be Demon King's Longsword on its own. After release of Stormbringer, it went even more crazy. Again, the whole thing is about mechanics, how this weapon is going to actually work, and the thing is about lightnings, which is going to be provided after we're going to use the skill from this weapon. Again, I have a feeling, and by my experience, these lightnings, they don't feel like any defense, any break bars at all. They're going just through it, and thanks to this sword, earlier I was able to complete all Prove Strongs level 20 without paying attention to weakness elements and so on. It's doing just a great job. And also on my channel there are several videos about it. Even on my free-to-play account I finished all the content with this one weapon, and Harbor Run as well. So with that being said, I believe I've covered pretty much all broken mechanics in this game. I might have missed something, or maybe I don't know any. If that's the case, just let me know in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video and will find this interesting. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and see you guys in the next one. Take care.